Welcome to the Clinical Podcast Series brought to you by the American Academy of Optometry Foundation. Today's episode is entitled Ocular Surface Characteristics in Pediatric Vernal Keratoconjunctivitis. I'd like to thank our host, Dr. April Jasper, our topical expert, Dr. Allegra Burgher, and our topical editor, Dr. Plaumann. And now it's my pleasure to begin today's podcast.
Hi everyone, I'm April Jasper and I'm speaking today with Allegra Burgher. Allegra completed her OD training at the Michigan College of Optometry, followed by a residency in pediatrics and vision therapy at the Southern California College of Optometry. She currently teaches there as well, and we're so glad she's here to walk us through this study. She's also a fellow of the American Academy of Optometry. Today she will be discussing the InPress, I love that, InPress Journal of American Association for Pediatric Ophthalmology and Strabismus paper entitled Ocular Surface Characteristics in Pediatric Vernal Keratoconjunctivitis, a Clinico-Cytological Study by Sabu et al. Boy, that was a lot to say.
It's a lot to read.
Allegra, I think this is going to be a very good study for you to break down for us because there's a lot in it. So, yeah, thank you so much. Well, let's start right from the beginning. What goals did the authors have for their research?
So these authors were looking to characterize how dry eye is involved or correlated with VKC, or vernal keratoconjunctivitis.
I know, I had
kids.
trouble
I
getting
know, VKC, that's all I call
easier.
it. Yes. So they were looking at this because we don't know much about dry eyes and pediatrics.
Well, how did they and who did they include in their study, and what exactly were their ocular surface characteristics that they were interested in for the study?
Yes, so they looked at 68 kids who were diagnosed with VKC. Now these kids could have been newly diagnosed or they could have been carrying this diagnosis for a while, but they had all different levels of VKC, and they used the 5-5-5 rating scale for that VKC. What they did is they looked at several things. So I have my notes here on exactly what they were looking at. They first did the OSDI symptom survey to characterize the symptoms of these patients. And then they did a comprehensive dry eye workup, which included tear meniscus height, non-invasive tear breakup time, lipid layer thickness, meibomian gland morphology, and duct distortion evaluation. So they did all of this, plus they looked at goblet cell density, squamous metaplasia, and the presence of inflammatory cells on the eyes. And this is more of a dry eye workup than I've ever done on a pediatric patient.
So what did this testing reveal in the two different groups?
So what they found was the OSDI was significant with the VKC severity in these patients. So they found that these kids were, almost all of them, reporting foreign body sensation and itching. So these kids also had more dryness when they had more severe disease. They found that the lipid layer thickness and the tear breakup time were both reduced in VKC, and they found this as a very strong correlation with this disease. Not only did they find that, I told you it's a big one, they found that there is squamous metaplasia also correlated with the VKC severity, and all meibomian gland parameters were markedly worse in these patients as well.
This seems like a lot of good information for us. So let's talk about what the insights were that we can take from this study to actually apply to practice and really be thinking about when we're treating our patients.
Yeah, so this is a great study to demonstrate that when you have VKC, it's not just that we do see MGD, or meibomian gland dysfunction. We see these symptoms of dryness in these kids, so they don't just have VKC, and it's a pretty tight correlation. So we need to be looking at that in treating these kids for their dryness as well as their VKC.
Wow, Allegra, I love this because it's such another good example of why research is important.
Yes.
And it's so good for us to be able to work together to bring this information to everybody. So it's real time right now because this is really relatively recent, correct?
InPress.
InPress. I love it.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And a special thanks to CooperVision for their educational grant to make it all happen.